Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at a new Garganacl. And I really like this new Garganacl. I think there is a lot of potential with this new Garganacl. Now look, in terms of attack, no one's excited about the attack. Not a single person is excited about the attack. It is free energy, 130, it's too expensive, it's too vanilla. There's nothing special about the attack. Nobody cares about the attack. However, we don't need to care about the attack because we've got the ability, and the ability is awesome, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely awesome. If this Pokemon is on the field, does not need to be active, you'll see why in a minute, your fighting Pokemon's attacks do an extra 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. And I'm pausing for dramatic effect here, because if we would have something that said you can only use one of these abilities at a time, this is where it would say it. But it doesn't say it. So we're completely off the hook. Now, admittedly, if we're trying to stack this, we're going to need multiple Garganacl on the board. That is, shall we say, not the easiest thing to accomplish, I grant you. Don't care. The point is, this does more. And we can kind of compare this quite favourably at this point to Superior EX. We just got Superior EX back in Black Bolt and White Flare. Technically only actually in Black Bolt, but you get what I mean. And that let all of your Pokemon do an extra 20, and there was nothing to say it didn't stack. Well, this does an extra 30. And there's still nothing here to say that it doesn't stack. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my point. This is going to stack all day long if you let it. And just to be clear, I will be letting it. And I love this. And here's the thing. When you look at Stage 2s, where we are at the moment is where we've been for a long time. Stage 2s are a pain. Getting a Stage 2 into play is super annoying. We don't want to have to go to all the effort of getting a Stage 2 into play. But if all you want is one Stage 2, well, Grand Tree. Now, I'm here, like if I'm playing this, I'm not playing a 1-1-1 line. One part's going to be prize, that's going to be annoying. But I'm going to play a 2-2-2 line, and the way I'm going along with it is this. If I can manually evolve up one of them at one point, that's going to be a huge advantage. But in the short term, play Grand Tree as your ace spec. And then once during your turn, as long as it would be allowed to evolve normally, of course, you can search a deck for a Stage 1 that evolves in one of your basic, and then search for a Stage 2 that evolves in the basic, and oh look, you're off. So, you bench your Nacli, you assume it's still there at the start of your next turn, you Grand Tree it up into a Garganacl, and then look, you've still got the opportunity to maybe get another one evolved up, maybe multiple if you're going to go for the 3-3-3 or 4-4-4 route, but my point is, I'm not mucking about with rare candy. If I just want this as a tech in a deck, and look, you can obviously muck around with rare candy, but I'm saying you don't need to. Play a 2-2-2 line, play Nacli, next turn, Grand Tree, straight up into your Stage 2, and then maybe you get another one evolved, maybe you don't, you've got the plus 30. And plus 30 is absolutely huge. Like, one of the absolute best cards in Black Bolt and White Flare is Brave Bangle, because it does 30 extra damage. Now, it's a lot more restrictive than this, but it does do an extra 30 damage. Only does the extra damage to EXs and only works on a non-rule box Pokemon. But it does an extra 30 damage. Well, this does an extra 30 damage to literally anything as long as you're using fighting Pokemon, which you're going to. And obviously, I'm going straight back here to Lucario. The more time goes by, the more I'm looking at this and just going, yeah, Lucario's nuts. And again, I don't know if Lucario is actually nuts. As with all of this, we have to wait and see when people start testing it. But single energy 130, and you attach free basic energy from your discard to your bench Pokemon in any way that you like. Awesome. The thing is, now it's not 130 anymore. Now it's potentially 160. Why is 160 relevant? Because with weakness, you're now hitting 320, and 320 is going to get basically everything that's weak. When I told you about Kangaskhan the other day, now admittedly I told you there's a bunch of ways Kangaskhan can up their HP. I grant you, we'll talk about that, another time. I know they can up their HP. But let's assume that they don't. They haven't got Bouffalant, whatever. Well, they've got a natural HP of 300. So 130 times 2, 260, you're not getting a KO, gutted. 160 times 2, 320, oh, we're getting a KO now. And my point is that there is a big difference a lot of the time between 260 and 300. There are a lot you're going to get. There's a difference between 130 and 160. And this is going to allow you to get extra KOs. And this is on the assumption that there is one Garganacl in play. There is nothing to say that you only have to have one. And I've already shown you that it does, in fact, stack. The rule is, as it's been for a while, if it doesn't stack, if you can't use more than one per turn, it will explicitly say so. Pheasant Dipty, as an example, specifically says you cannot use more than one flip the script ability during your turn. Where it's limited to one during your turn, it will explicitly say it on the card. Therefore, where it doesn't, it's not limited. That's the rule. This is not limited. Now, realistically, if you're trying to think about this as a get it rolling nice and early, I think you've got one pretty consistently off a Grand Tree, and then after that, you're kind of hoping you get another one out maybe. And I honestly think a lot of the time that's going to be enough. Just being able to get one of these in the vaguely early game, and then you're rolling. And it's all just extra stuff. You notice how Lucario's Mega Brave does 270? Well, with this, it goes up to 300. Which you'll notice seems like it's going to be a bit of a number moving forward. With 2, it goes up to 330 and KOs basically anything. And would this be a good time to bring up Power Protein? Because I feel like this is a good time to bring up Power Protein. You know that item card? The one that's coming in Mega Brave, or Mega Evolution over here. The one that says this turn your fighting Pokemon's attacks do an extra 30 damage? Yeah. So look, we've already got the item that lets us do an extra 30 damage here and there. Now we've got a static extra 30 in addition. So when I'm saying we get an extra 30, extra 60, this is going to happen a lot more consistently. The thing is, Power Protein, you're only playing 4 of them in your deck. You are going to play 4 of them. An item that does an extra 30 damage is entirely busted. What we're looking at is what else? What next? What other tricks do we have? And that is where we turn to something like Garganacl. Can I honestly tell you that every fighting deck is going to play this? No! There's going to be plenty of people who look at this and go, you know what? I've got Power Protein, I've got low energy attacks, this is going to be enough. But there's going to be people that look at Garganacl and Grand Tree and they go, well, that's an extra 30 damage on every attack from turn 2, and then I've got Power Protein to go and put on top of that, and then in reality I'm playing 8, 9, 10 Power Protein. Oh, well, that, ladies and gentlemen, makes a whole heap of a difference. It is worth noting, of course, that there are many Garganacl that are actually around in the game at the moment. We've got the one from Paldea Evolved that during Pokemon Checkup heals 20 from each of your Pokemon. We've got the one from Paradox Rift that once during your turn lets you attach a basic fighting from your discard to one of your Pokemon. And then we've got the EX, which is probably not that good, but it came out in Stellar Crown. So if you want to go down the Garganacl route, there are plenty of other Garganacl that we've got here with which you can combine it. For me personally, I'm not sure you need to. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying I'm not sure we need to. I'm telling you that there's a lot of options here, and that's lovely. But my theory with this is very simple. I want to get one of these out super quickly in the early game, and then I just want to kind of sit and chill, knowing I've got an extra 30 damage with every attack that I make, and I think that's not a bad thing. And don't be thinking I've forgotten about my boy Mamoswine, because of course, with Mamoswine here, you're already playing Garganacl. A bunch of builds are already playing the Garganacl that accelerates energy, because Mamoswine has a 2 energy attack and needs stage 2s to bump up the damage. So if you're already playing the Garganacl line in Mamoswine, well, now you just put one of these down and do an extra 30 damage? Yes, obviously yes. I'm giving this thing 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. As someone who likes playing fighting decks and is very excited about Lucario, I am looking at this as a very enticing option indeed. But I've told you all about it now, so now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And please do remember, with the new YouTube algorithm, likes and comments are so much more important than they were before. So if you could drop a like and a comment, that would be phenomenal. And we need to give a shout out to one of our lovely Patreons here. So shout out to Kanto Royalty, who's been a supporter of ours for a long time now and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.